And again, thank you everyone who's been contributing to this process. I know it's a long time. If you're here just looking to see some Dead Cells gameplay, it's coming. Usually we get through this portion in like the first hour of the stream. When I think about it though, I feel like I could knock out shields in like 10 minutes. There's really nothing here that screams to me that it needs a real over explanation. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone is aware of what's like really good and what's really bad here. I'm still gonna go through it because there's a couple brand new shields. So it's gonna take a little bit of time, just not the full hour. Alright, so first time on the list, green shield. Everyone's trying to go green nowadays. It's called Green Shield, but I like saying green better. So this is probably one of the first shields that you get, and honestly, it's a shield. So like I said, this list is gonna take me like 10 minutes. Everything does the same thing unless it's Rampart. So, like, what do you even do to make a list here? I feel like technically I can just start building this out and then just rearrange everything while I talk about it. Greed Shield though, it got a buff, so it actually has a minimum, quote unquote, minimum value for the player to hold, and it'll start ramping up the amount of gold you get until you hit that minimum value. But in a 4 BC environment, the number is super low. It's like 4,000 gold in prison quarters. And if you have 4,000 gold in prison quarters, you're probably like... You probably didn't unlock the money thing. I don't even know the name of it. It's not gonna be in here, but you guys know when you die, you restart the game and you have a coin purse on the ground that has money in it. There is very little chance that that coin purse is gonna have less than 4,000 gold in it. Is that how dying works? Only once you unlock it, and once you're in 4 BC and higher, you should have probably unlocked that. Dude, the Sunder. Have you been in Caverns yet? Caverns is legit. You're gonna like that. So in that case, honestly, I have never used this shield and gotten the bonus gold from it. Like, every time I take the shield, I'm already, like, rich. And I just want a shield, so it doesn't even matter. Like, I put it down here because I honestly don't care what it does. To me, it's just a triangle button. If I can get any other triangle button, I would sell this in a heartbeat. Oh yeah, you never die, so you're missing out. Maybe this shield's actually designed for you, because you would sell... Well, you'd spend all your money at the end of the game, you would go back to the beginning of the game, and then you would have 0. So that means you need the Greed Shield numbers. Every time I see a username like that, I just like to call them numbers. Alright, Cudgel, whatever you want to call it. This is probably the only other shield that has an effect that you might actually think about. It's not an S though. And the reason why is you don't always get the stun on bosses. So in terms of shields, it kind of does everything correctly. Like, it doesn't do anything wrong. It just doesn't do more than what it should. Whereas there's a couple other shields in here that do quite a bit more, and is the reason why it's an S rank. And we'll get to that. So you block stuff, the stuff can't respond anymore. So then you're free to deal as much damage as you want. So it's good in that regard. You take this thing into prison depths and you will probably win. You take this thing into prison depths and you probably uninstall because you rage quit way too hard. So Khudgo's good to keep you from rage quitting. I definitely recommend taking this thing over the Greed Shield any day of the week. Please use this and not this, unless you're, you know, broke. Like you spent all your money on rerolls. Maybe you rerolled the Greed Shield 10 times and now you're out of cash. Then yeah, Greed Shield, you know, it's usable. I would almost say you would just drop the Greed Shield and sell it, and you would probably make more money than blocking with it, which is really sad to say. Maybe that's another thing about 4BC is that the Greed Shield gives you back like 60 bucks to 180 bucks per parry, or you can just sell it and get 1,000. Like that's a little less than 10 parries to get to 1,000 gold, whereas you could just sell this thing and not have to worry about parrying. I don't know. I don't really see the point. Okay, Rampart. And like I said, this is gonna be the fastest tier list ever. Rampart's an S. Let's just get that out of the way now. There's no blocking scenario where Rampart's bad. And they actually buffed it. In the past, there was a quote-unquote bug, which I feel was probably intentional, but they took it out for a consistency sake. And what that was that when you parry with the Rampart Shield, that invulnerability actually goes on cooldown. Like, you can't just stack invulnerability. You'll do the first parry, you'll go invulnerable, you'll try to parry the next one, and then you don't get the shielding anymore. And yeah, it was awful when that happens. Like when you're fighting a slasher, for example. So this thing does not really stop a slasher mid-combo. This thing doesn't either. Like really, most shields don't stop a slasher from completing his combo or failed experiment. They'll just continue where they left off. So you block the first hit, you get the invulnerability, you try to kill it, and then you maybe block the next slasher that's on its way, and you don't get the shield, the invulnerability, and you take massive damage from it. So bad. But now that they changed that, it's a godlike shield. There's really no scenario where you would want something else. Like even the damaging ones, like the blood and the this guy right here, Punisher. I don't really care about the shield dealing the damage if I can just be invulnerable and hit stuff with my S rank heavy crossbow. Like, I could care less about the shield damage in that case. So, easy pickings for an S. Especially from a curse chest, you see this thing, 8 times out of 10 you're grabbing it. Like, regardless of what your build is. Maybe if you're doing like a tactics build with some like double range built in, like marksman bow combined, no, not marksman, Hokuto combined with the alchemic carbine. But even then, like, you may want to consider just dropping the Hokuto and taking the Rampart. Like, why make it more stressful for yourself? Okay. Blood Shield, so not an S. I would also not really put this thing as an A. So there's a couple reasons why I'm gonna be ranking these shields the way I am. Like, I did have, as you see here, some criteria for an item to lose ranks, but shields are a little different, and really not that much different. Like all of those check marks up above kind of also qualify for shields, but I guess the attack pattern is what we'll call it. There's a specific piece to shields that's very important, and that's, can it stop failed experiment, slasher, or like a boss from doing whatever its action is, and then give you enough time to do something in response. A lot of the other shields besides these two don't do that. They deal damage, which might just kill the monster, which is kind of why I'm keeping this at a B. But at least in 4BC and higher, I haven't gotten too many shields that will clear the room on its own. I've gotten some, especially ones that like poison on parry, and victim explodes into poison, or victim has exploding remains when they die. Those kind of shields are actually really good, but that's an affix. There's not something you can really count on. So I think we're gonna have a lot of shields in the B category. But this thing, it can potentially clear rooms. I actually need to do some more testing on this weapon, because I'm a little curious on if the monsters actually will teleport to you when you apply the bleed. I know elites will, but I'm not completely sure if standard monsters will. Alright, Assault Shield. This thing, of course, is the go-to shield for speed running. And it's in here somewhere. Here it is. Of course, it's the only shield, really the only weapon of its kind that does some of the gameplay involved with it. Thunder is S. So no spoilers, I played Thunder Shield one time, and I thought of it very highly, but a lot of people in chat who used it before said it was garbage. So I'm a little on the fence, and I definitely gonna need some practice with that weapon. Alright, but this thing, like I said, has very unique gameplay, so I'm so tempted to put it in the unused category just for that fact. It's broken from a concept of speedrunning, and it actually has some very, like when you play it the speedrunner style, it has some really weird interactions with interrupting combos. So I kind of think that it's not an S, but it's kind of decent. Haven't used Thunder, but it's learning curve from watching Firebird. Yeah, I definitely want to give it a try, like a full college try with every mutation in the book behind it. But I don't have it, so I can't really say too much. So for those who don't know, Assault Shield has a very specific parry to it, where you parry and you'll go a certain distance. And if you time your dodge roll at the same time, you'll actually go farther. You'll take a lot of enemies with you, and you'll reset their auto attack. So it does a lot of things in the kit, built in. Things that probably should have been taken out of the game, but players were so invested in that kind of gameplay that the devs, decided it should stay. Which is probably a good decision, because this thing isn't just gonna save you magically in 5BC. But in 5BC, it's actually still kind of decent if you play the speedrunner style. So I think it's gonna stay as an A rank. I can't make it S purely because it is the go-to speedrunner shield, because that's not what I'm doing. And again, this is a V.me tier list. So we're playing it from my perspective, which is obviously a shield expert. Like, clearly I have used more shields than anybody. If you watch my VODs, you'll see probably 1 shield in the entire 3 hours of gameplay. Alright, Parry Shield, can't be S. I honestly don't even like to have it as an A. So Parry Shield, it's not bad. It doesn't stop enemies from finishing off their combos. If you kill the enemy, it's great, but it cannot do that. I honestly don't like Parry Shield that much. It's fun, but in 4BC and higher, you have these huge mobs where like you have a runner that's coming at you and a failed experiment that's gonna jump. You do the first parry on the runner, probably won't kill it. You'll parry, like double tap the parry, stop the failed experiment, probably won't kill it. You have to dodge roll, the runner is already active again. Like, it doesn't stop things from getting off their attacks unless you kill it. And I feel like it probably needs a mutation behind it in order to actually kill stuff. And maybe once you do that, then it's a whole new ball field. Like, you can actually go through the game parry killing. But without that, it's just so dangerous. Like, compared to some of this stuff up here, where the one parry can give you some opportunity to actually kill the room, stuff like this doesn't. This might, because everything got its HP reduced by half, or maybe you have a cool skill that does bonus damage on bleeding targets. Parry Shield doesn't do that. So I think I'm gonna leave Parry Shield as a C. Punishment, I am so tempted to make Punishment a C. And that's so sad. Let's put it here, because it's gonna be kind of like a toss-up between the two of these. I think Parry Shield's better. I mean, no, I think Punishment is better than Parry. So, by that logic, it has to go above Parry. Only problem with Punishment is that it doesn't hit stuff on other levels compared to you, whereas Blood Shield does. So to me, that makes Blood Shield better. But I can't, unless I did something like this. But I feel like that's really unfair. Like, in what world does a shield deserve to be a D rank? I might have to sit on this though. This doesn't look that awful. What I really need is to test Punishment more, and I've gotten a couple punishments, but I never like sat and really dissected the gameplay. But I have a strong feeling that Punishment doesn't hit other quote-unquote rooms, whereas Blood Shield does. And that to me makes Blood Shield actually better. Here we go. So Knockback Shield is probably in line. It's just a shield. Like, the knockback is okay. Probably not all that necessary. It does kind of help keep you alive. Thinking about like interrupting a monster's combo, it does give you some breathing room. But I would say about as much as Punishment's damage would do. Because Punishment's damage hits everything in the hallway. So that might give you some opportunity to play around with. Like, it might let your infantry grenade. Well, you're probably using powerful grenade if you're running these shields. But if you're not, because you just need a shield, it probably does just as much as Punishment would. They did buff the knockback, I think. So it's not terrible. Spyke Shield. So there's some gameplay that admittedly I haven't really done, where you just hold down triangle with the Spyke Shield and just let stuff kill themselves. For those who don't know, in 4BC Plus, you can actually hold triangle button down and not take melee's damage. Of course, you lose your no-hit, but if you get a shield, a Spyke Shield that absorbs a lot of damage, then you could potentially have some really strong triangle button gameplay. But again, it's probably not... I wonder if it's a B rank. Better than punishment. That's really interesting. I'm curious to see how strong holding down the button can truly be for Spyke Shield. Like I said, this is gonna be a really fast tier list, so I kind of want to move on to skills, and we'll have like 20 minutes to do skills. So they actually changed how Frontline, no, it's called Force Shield now. So it's no longer called the Frontline Shield, it's now called the Force Shield. It's okay. It does exactly what it's supposed to, which if you hold down the button, it'll make you invulnerable to incoming damage. And I feel like against certain bosses, that could be really good. But then there's also the situation where maybe you should just parry. Like, the boss isn't really gonna stop attacking. So let's say you were fighting the giant and you picked up this thing. The giant has a couple attacks where you don't really trust yourself to dodge. But really, if you learn to do the dodges, you'll probably come out better than just holding down triangle. Or if you do the parry, like when he punches, you should be able to parry the punch by the time you get to 5BC. The slam, like the double fist slam that causes the crystals to fall from the sky, unless you have some kind of really good skills that are just exuding damage around you, holding down triangle during the crystals is gonna make that fight so much longer. Whereas you could just dodge roll and try to fit in damage wherever you can. So I honestly feel like 0 to 3BC, Force Shield is probably higher rank, but I honestly don't admire this kind of gameplay. And again, it's a Veedotme tier list, so I'm sure people are gonna look at this and say this is a hot garbage. But I don't like the kind of gameplay that Force Shield emphasizes. It's not like Rampart where you just get the invulnerability and now you're free to start dishing out damage. You're locked in to holding triangle here. So I just don't think that's the right choice. Okay, and now the true Frontline Shield, which is right here. The true Frontline Shield is basically a glorified Spyke Shield. Like, you can't hold down the button to deal constant damage, but it's a brutality shield, so, like, that's as good as it gets. It inflicts additional damage if you kill the monster with a melee attack, and it lasts for a pretty decent amount of time. So anytime you land the parry, it's gonna do real damage. Is it gonna kill something? Probably not. Not in 4BC Plus, unless you're like stacked on brutality or survival, I guess. But I mean, doing a parry and taking something down to 20% of its health bar, it's still real. Technically, punishment can do the same thing, but why would we make punishment a C over this? Maybe punishment deserves to be a C in this case. Alright, and then the last shield, so Thunder Shield. And again, I don't have a lot of practice with the Thunder Shield. I used it one time because I got super lucky with a legendary drop. And that was like at the end of a stream. And I was like, crap, I gotta go to bed so bad. But I just got like a brand new item to drop randomly. So I had to mess around with it. Now, what screwed me up is that I didn't know about holding triangle for melees. I thought that it was still the case where no matter what kind of hit you took, you take melees. But they changed that. That makes it more usable. And then also, the stat that was on the Thunder Shield, the stat was purple. So I had the Thunder Shield, and I was like, oh crap, is this like an OP Tactics Shield? Is this like the equivalent of Frontline Shield, except for Tactics players? Maybe I should get some Tactics mutations to make this thing busted. And that was absolutely not the case. I needed survival, and I needed survival mutations. Why this thing scales on purple, I have no idea. Seismic Strike is horrible? That's what I want to hear. I love the feedback. Again, the best Seismic Strike game we had was the one that let us insta-lock Conjunctivitis in place. If there was any situation where they removed the diminishing returns on bosses, that thing's an S rank to me. It's shooting all the way up to S. Right now it's an A, I believe, because I think, and again, Veedotme tier list, I think that thing is actually amazing. Literally busted item, so busted they nerfed it the next day. Yeah, you probably need to get the slows all enemies on the screen. So re-roll it a couple of times until you get that affix, and it's, I think it's good. Also, if you roll behind the enemy, so long as they have their back facing you, they won't do any attacks. So for example, failed experiment, he jumps at you, you dodge roll through the jump, you instantly swing backwards, like regardless of what he's doing. If you land the snare, he will just stand there until he dies. Same thing with elites. Any elite, as long as you get behind it, even if it has like an elite special ability, besides tactical missiles, I guess, you will stun lock elites and they will sit there until they die. But it is very intricate gameplay, so it definitely takes some hours to get used to it. Alright, so yeah, I think Thunder Shield might be able to do stuff if you stack survival behind it, but again, I've only ever used it one time, like probably 15 minutes max, before the game just blew me up. So because of that, I had to make it unused. Just like speculation here, I would like to have Thunder Shield up in a B for the same kind of gameplay as Spyke Shield, like holding down triangle style. I think if you got a really good roll, so like maybe it poisons on hit, or maybe like enemy remains explode, so when the next enemy comes to you, it's taking damage from the explosion guts. I think in that case, it could go up to an A. I don't think it's an S because, well, maybe if you get a busted affix like absorbs 95% damage, you put Vengeance on it too. Actually, I feel like there's no way you can get that much damage reduction, so it'll require some testing. But for now, I really want to have it as unused. I don't want to put the V seal of approval on this thing. Alright, but yeah, that's the shield list. I know there's not a lot of shields in the game. Where's my download? Save and download. But who needs a shield tier list on YouTube? Just take whatever you want. If it's on triangle button, it's probably good enough. Really, I could have done that where Rampart is S, Cudgel is A, and then everything else is B. I could have easily had done that, but I decided to spend some extra time on it. Alright, but anyway, I want to play some Dead Cells. You don't even use them? Yeah, a lot of people, especially a lot of old school tactics players, don't even bother with shields. Like, just give me my double turret and my ice bow, and I could care, like, what's a shield?